This podcast represents the opinions of the hosts of the Laugh Cry Club and guests on the show. The content here should not be taken as medical advice and is for informational purposes only. And because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we share is accurate, we welcome any comments, suggestions, or correction of errors. Welcome back, everybody, to the Laugh Cry Club. I'm Joy.
I'm Rebecca.
I'm Chelsea. And if you are an imperfect human who laughs and cries, and you might even have friends or kids or significant others who also laugh and cry, this podcast is for you and maybe, most likely, one of those humans. Welcome.
I mean, we are imperfect. We just had to go back. We just had to go back and listen to our previous episode to figure out what we were going to talk about.
Okay. And I just think, wow.
But we're here. We're three licensed therapists. We are imperfect and just so hilarious that we love that you listen to our podcast. We want to normalize the human experience and talk about laughing and crying and the emotions that we all feel every single day, sometimes 1,000 emotions a day. We start every episode with a laugh and a cry of the week. We are building on our topic from last week of the techniques that we're using really in the CBT realm. We'll get into that more, of making new tracks and conquering what we would do if we knew we weren't going to fail. And then we'll wrap up with a topic for next week. So Chelsea, as always, who do you nominate for the laugh and the cry?
Well, this morning before we joined, Rebecca and I were smoking candy cigarettes together and having a real bonding, real bonding moment. If you don't know me, there's a thing I do when my friends are far away. I like to be like, hey, want to go to the beach this morning? Or want to go get lunch? Or, hey, I just got this new outfit. I'm going to wear it when I meet you later today. And so when our realities suck, we do that. So this morning, Rebecca and I smoked cigarettes together, candy cigarettes, because we care about our health. And
yes.
Rebecca keeps them right by her workstation.
Yeah.
So dun, da, 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 it is Rebecca. The candy's my addiction. Smoking is really fun when you were an 80s kid.
Give him a shake in the microphone.
Shake. Oh my God.
Some ASMR for you.
Yeah, it's got like the Marlboro Man on here on a horse, and it says Roundup, all the stuff from back in the 80s. I think candy cigarettes have been around for a long time.
They really have. So
that's when I was alive.
Me too. So Rebecca, what you got?
Oh gosh. Okay. This is a laugh cry all in one. So I think it was like last week sometime, Robin, my wife, came in and said, oh my gosh, there's like a $400-something charge from Airbnb on my credit card. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. And she's like, did you order an Airbnb in California? And I'm like, no, I ordered one for Gulf Shores, Alabama, but not in California. And so it was one of those conversations where you're not like in the same room together. So there's probably the first thing that's going wrong with this.
Oh, wait, were you legit not in the same room?
No, we weren't. I was in my office and
so you
she
were
was
like
in the living room.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
she came down the hallway.
Okay.
Yeah. That would be great too, metaphorically. We are not in the same room. I think I'm going to use that for some people.
But, oh my God, that's so good. Metaphorically, we weren't in the same room.
No.
It's kind of like, I thought you were saying like we weren't on the same page. I was like, well, maybe you're just saying you're not.
That's so good. I love it. But I think, she maybe walked down the hall and made an appearance for a second and then walked away. And I'm like, no, I made one for Gulf Shores. And so it had been so long. I mean, maybe like 3 weeks since I had made the original purchase, and I had divided the purchases up. I don't know why I did it. I never do that, but I did it this time. And she's like, wow, I'm going to have to call them. I'm like, oh, yeah, that really sucks. I don't know who would have bought an Airbnb in California. So weird. I didn't think to go check like how much I was getting charged for my purchase because I'm like, it's in Alabama, okay? We didn't think about that. So she calls them up, reports this fraud. And then maybe 5 days after that, I get a thing and it says your Airbnb reservation has been canceled. And I'm like, what? And I start to panic. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, how? I went on Airbnb and it's like, yeah, it's been canceled. Apparently some security thing. And I'm like, great. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? And Robin's like, I don't know. I guess I'm going to call them and try to tell them it wasn't fraud. It was an accident. And then I'm like, well, that's not going to help because I still have lost this reservation and now it's open for the masses, right? So I'm like, oh, I got to go and try to get this reservation again. Anyway, long story short, I got the reservation again. It was me and my charge. I don't know why her credit card was on my Airbnb because I have my PayPal on there. I don't know, but it was my purchase. But
so you canceled the Airbnb and you were texting the group and you're like, just so you know,
I got this handled.
Because I actually got the message from Airbnb because
you saw it. I'm like, Joy saw this.
Well, because it's like when you add friends to like the reservation, you get all the messages related to it in the Airbnb app. And so I was like, oh, something's happening. So I'm just going to let this play out.
You saw it. And I'm like, what the flip? Why was this canceled? And then I'm like, oh, shit. Anyway, I was in trouble at home because you can't just, it was a whole thing to go through the fraud charge, right? And this card is linked to a lot of other things that she pays with, right? So you know how you just link things and you don't even remember. So Nin had to go back and link a new card with everything. So I am in trouble because it was my charge. Whoopsies.
Whoopsies. But
Okay,
don't you hate when you like,
Was the person who owns the Airbnb there probably live in California, I'm guessing?
I have no idea.
No, it's Airbnb is based in California. So all the charges are like through, so, but it's just like you don't think about that when it's gone, when so much time has passed. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a charge where I'm like, fraud. And then you have to go back and be like, oh, that's from like this HOA fee that they're based in Illinois. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
it's crazy. But I mean, I think it was an honest mistake. I didn't know. It's been a while, I didn't know it was going to say that. So, and then I was like, oh, these people are going to think I'm such a moron and think, oh, this is fraudulent. So then I'm like talking to them, like trying to explain like why this all happened. So like, don't cancel this new reservation I made.
Yeah, you're like, I promise we're good for this.
Yeah, I'm paying it all up front. Yeah. That was my laugh cry because it was a lot of stress and it's actually really funny, but then it's really not for Robin since she had to go and change her card on numerous things.
Oh, sorry, Robin.
And then it was like, then it was the disagreement type stuff where it's like, oh, I asked you. And it's like, yeah, you said an Airbnb in California. And I said, I did not purchase one in California, but in Alabama. And so it was all that, back and forth type of couple
like who's on first.
That happens.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Who's right here? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Whew, anyway, that's that.
Oh, geez. Well, we're going to be seeing that Airbnb in a few weeks, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah,
yes. Oh, goodness. I'm going to pass this over to Joy.
I have a really good laugh this week. My laugh is related to my parents again because they are hilarious. I've mentioned my dad numerous times of how silly he is and just he's a cartoon character. He's like mad scientist cartoon character through and through. He's a rebel, has always kind of gone against the grain, doesn't really follow the rules or like makes rules in his head, especially as he's older. Okay, so he's 83 years old and he restores cars. He restores all types of cars my whole life. He's a mechanic. He's an aircraft mechanic, but he has worked on cars and like that's his thing. So growing up, we had all sorts of cars in the garage at all time and total like grease monkey vibe where the smell of like oil brings me back to like a nostalgic of being at home. Anyway, so he's restoring this VW Bug. It's really cool. It has like a sunroof. It's a very unique 1972 VW Bug. And he recently sold it. So I've been helping him post things to sell. And he recently sold it to this woman and he's like very excited about it. And so he's kind of like going through the final, like touching things up, fixing things up. But it never has been registered because it's never been something that they actually use to drive around. So it's not a registered car, doesn't have a license plate. So whenever I'm there and he likes to take it for a spin while he's working on it and show me the car, we'll just drive up and down the road, right? Like whatever. It's a small town. No one's going to like pull you over because there's no cops out there. So he calls Scott and I the other night. Like we always put him on speakerphone because he like loves to talk to Scott. And so we're on speakerphone and he's like, yeah, I am finishing up this bug and I'm going to take it for some test drives because I really want to make sure it runs well. And I'm like, well, it runs fine. But like, he's just very excited about making sure that it runs exactly how it needs to run when this lady picks it up. Right.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, I was thinking of driving it to the jail, which is in Florence. They live like an hour and a half, like an hour from
like
the Florence.
The federal.
Yes, we're like
Florence. The
we're like
facility?
the Unabomber is. Yeah, like
hey, Ted Consistent.
yes,
nice
like
to see you.
I pass it every time I go to their house, and it's always the weirdest feeling to be like, there's some. Oh yeah, I'll take a picture
That's
of it.
so
I'm driving
cool.
there tomorrow.
You can take me there sometime.
And it's this very interesting town. Anyway, that's beside the point. So he wants to drive it to Florence to like just take it on like an hour-long trip and back. Okay, he goes. But it doesn't have a license plate. So I'm thinking of just making a license plate and putting it on this car.
Bad idea.
Great idea.
And
Oh my
Scott and
God,
I,
so
he goes,
smart.
I think
love
I'm just
it.
going to, like, he's dead ass serious. And he's like, I think I'm just going to, like, make a license plate so I can drive it there and back. And
Paper
Scott
tag.
Scott and I look at each other and we are like, the fuck you are? And so we're like, Dad, you are absolute. And I'm like, Dad? And I don't like push back at my dad because we always are just like, oh, that's my dad. He's funny. Ha ha ha. And I'm like, Dad, you absolutely cannot make a license plate. Like, where in the world do you think that is okay? And that I'm like, if you're going to do this, drive without a license plate. Like, it's way worse to make a fake license plate than it is to drive with no license plate. And so we started laughing so hard that he had the audacity to think like, this is just an okay idea. Not to mention you're driving to a federal prison and back where I'm sure there's cops roaming around. And it was just so funny because he lives in such a small town. Oh my gosh. I'm sure I know I told this story when I was living there where he like got pulled over for running a stop sign. And we were like blowing through stop signs. And like by the time I got to where we were going, I thought the sheriff was just like hanging out with us and like wanted to say hi. And my dad's like, no, so the sheriff's kind of like, no, my dad. And my dad thinks that he can kind of get away with whatever because he's 83 years old.
And because he does.
Yes. Because he lives in this small town and he's like, I know the sheriffs, they're not going to like give me a ticket. I'm 83 years old. And I'm like, okay, so that's like the logic that you're just...
Okay, but Joy, can we all agree? Like when I'm 83, yeah, I might make myself do whatever the fuck I want to do. I've made it 83 years. Like you've earned this, right?
Preach. I 1000% agree. And my dad is he's like not a mean bone in his body, So like he's just like, honestly, they have bigger fish to fry. Like, do you really think that me like blowing through a stop sign? I'm like, well, yeah, you kind of like blow through stuff, but it's such a small town too. You know what I mean? But like, we worry just because he is very spacey. So like, we always joke that like if you were to pass by him on the street and wave, he will not see you. Like he's like just always in his head, like very spacey. So we worry about that on just like a safety level. You know what I mean? So it was just so funny. So we had to talk him off the ledge with that one. And we're like, you're not, I'm like, Dad, promise me. The most you can do is drive to town and back. I'm like, if you need to drive it to town and back 5 times, please just stay in your town. Do not leave the town. Do not go to Florence without a license plate. So we were just like, oh, it was just such a funny moment. And then, of course, I tell my mom, I'm like, Mom, let me tell you something. She goes, oh, he would never tell me because he knows I'd get mad at him. So I totally busted him. She's like, I can't believe he said he was going to do that. So that was my laugh. Bless their freaking sweethearts. I'm going to see them this weekend just to hang out. So I'm sure I'll have some good stories of my father. My cry has been just like this silly little like, well, I don't want to say silly, but it does feel silly where like I have been in this like very emotional mood this week, feeling like this existential dread coming over. And I hate when I get in that place. And I know it has so much to do with I've been like super isolated this week. I haven't like left my house that much, where normally I have to like make actual trips to be like, I'm going to go to the store this week. I'm going to, like working from home and that whole thing where I'm like joke about not leaving my house. But this week has been really, really bad. And I get even more psyched about the seasons changing, and that typically affects my mood. So I'm like, oh my gosh, so I was really happy to have this podcast this morning because I'm like, okay, I just need to say it out loud. I need to release it to someone that the existential dread has been really hard, and that just happens sometimes. And I need to remind myself that like, this is a normal part of being a human, where I just get like super, it's just like that whole humaning is hard feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like that has been super heavy. So I know it'll pass. I needed to release it, but that has been my cry.
And it's almost like when those things happen, because I go through that often. It's almost like you need to shake it up. Like you need to be shook up. It's almost like it's like gets stuck in your body. And it's like, I imagine it like make me be like a protein shake with like that shaker thing in there. Add in a new flavor and just shake the shit out of it, because I need to be shook up, because I'm like in this. Yeah, I know what you're saying, Joy.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
To shake you up. Yeah.
Like seriously, to just like, and or even just like that Cher scene in Moonstruck where she's like, snap out of it. Like you just really feel like you have to have someone snap you out of it. So I knew today I was like, oh, I'm going to probably have a really good cathartic release of snapping out of it just by like releasing it and saying it out loud, because I know by now, and this is another beauty, listeners out there, like once you kind of start to know your patterns and the things that are a struggle for you, you know how to deal with them better. So a moment like this, a week like this, where I'm like, oh, I just feel like I'm just having a hard time being a human, that will pass. And I know that there's certain things I can do to help myself like push through it, so to speak. Okay, Chelsea.
Well, I had a really big cry. So last week we were talking about like making changes, and we're going to talk about that today in cognitive behavioral therapy. And mine is really getting back in a routine. When I work a lot. And I love work, and I love like being in flow where I lose track of time. And I love that when I'm creating, when I'm writing, I love it. Like this morning, this podcast, I was really, to your point, Joy, it shakes me up. It brings me back to like the core essence of who I am. And so I am a writer on Substack. Most of you know that. And I wrote once very soon after Steve's death. And I have not published anything. And I do write still, because that is part of my process of healing, is really like I write. So Monday, I was like, I need to go back and like read through some of the things that I've wrote. Oh my God, it fucked me up. I mean, I couldn't go through and read everything. And then because it almost feels surreal. Like the 9 weeks I spent in the hospital with Steve, day in, day out, more surgeries than we can count, more procedures than we could count, him declining, going from an able body to not being able to write, barely talking, writing, like walking was not happening. Like it crushes my soul. So I just like went through my notes, and I'm like, I'm just going to scroll, and I'm just going to, whatever it stops, you know, you can do that on your notes. You kind of like scroll through, and then I'm like, wherever it stops is what I'm supposed to write about. I'm not reading all this. I can't do it. And then what my process is, then I highlight whatever it was that I had, whatever idea I had taken a note of, whatever I'd written, I highlight it, and then I know that I've already wrote about it. And that's kind of how my process is. I have like an ongoing page that's random dumps. And so it was very fitting. It was, and I did publish it on Monday, and it was the first of the last. And it was about me, him being in palliative care, me cleaning his glasses and completely having a meltdown, being like, oh my God, I'm probably never going to clean his glasses again. So I sobbed, and I'm trying to write it, and I'm trying to edit it, and I'm trying to get like the grammatical stuff right. Thank God for AI to like be an editor, you know, and get that kind of stuff clean. And then the next step after I write is to record audio. It took me 2 hours, because I would start to read it and I would start sobbing. And then I'd be like, breathe, get it back. And then I'd start to write, and then I'd start sobbing. And like, I mean, hysterically, it's like this hysterical, the ugliest cry where your mouth is wide open and you're holding your air like a little kid. And then it's like wailing. So during this process, this is where my laugh cry goes together, the doorbell rings. My doorbell's broken. You can barely hear it. But then my Nest camera starts going off on my phone, and there's this random man like on my porch. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I'm in my bathrobe. Like, I committed to writing, so that meant I'm just going to do it. I'm not doing anything else. So I'm still like in my bathrobe, like naked underneath, like no clothes on, hair up, haven't brushed my teeth. Like I'm like a fucking disaster. So I crack open the door and I'm like, hello. And it's this cute, young, like African-American guy. He's like tattooed all the way up his neck. He has glasses on and he's like looking at me and he has a box of crumble cookies.
Oh. It's a delivery.
Yeah, and he gets totally like I'm like, you know how you look when you've been like ugly crying. Yeah. I'm like, and I'm still in the cry. I'm still hysterical. Yeah. So I'm like, can I help you? And he's like totally completely gets he's like flustered. He's like, yeah, I'm flustered talking about it. He gets flustered. He's looking at me. He's like, your friend, Callie, she wanted me to say something, and he's trying to like tell me what the message was verbally. And I'm like, who's Callie? And he's like, he's so thrown. Like, I think men can't handle women crying. This guy's probably like, what? This fucking woman is like in her fucking
completely, their brain shuts off. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't have a friend named Callie. And I'm like, oh, it's my girlfriend from Cali. I'm like, my girlfriend Jen, right? And he's like, yeah, I think it's that. He's like, and she has a message for you. And he's like trying to spit out the message. And then I'm just start like laughing because I'm like, oh my God, this is so bizarre. Like, it was so, and he's looking at me. And then I'm like, my friend sent me cookies. Then I start crying more. And he's just standing there still holding the cookies.
He's just caught in the middle of it all.
He can't get the message out. And he's like, she just really wants you to have a nice start to your week. And then I'm like, oh my God, that's so nice. And then I start sobbing again. And then he just hands me the cookies, like this box, like, oh my God, this chick. Like, does she need a
get out of there fast
But
enough.
she's like half naked in this room. Like he just like, he didn't know what to do. And I get in the house and I text my girlfriend Jen and I'm like, did you just send me cookies? And she's like, yeah, did he give you the message? And then I was like, oh my God, like I'm in like a state, I'm writing, I'm hysterical. And she's like, oh my God, are you okay? And then she does this thing where she'll say like, I'm going to shoot you a text. And she sends you like the Shooter McGavin, which is like so fucking funny. And she's like, I almost asked him to like give you the Shooter McGavin. And then we get on the phone and I'm like, I'm so glad you didn't. Like, this guy was on my porch for a good solid 5 minutes holding a box of cookies, frozen.
Trying to figure out what the fuck is happening.
And it's like, clearly this bitch needs to eat some cookies and like settle down. Like, she really needs it. Yeah, so then I was crying, laughing, just imagining if she had given him that extra task, and then and then just laughing at like this man's sweet, like he was young, he had to be in his 20s. I'm like, this guy was like, I did not sign up for this. I went out of my way to give a verbal message. Like, he's probably like, never, like I'm never doing this again. Yeah, it was like a laugh. Cry and
that is the best laugh cry.
It was really good. And then after I ate, a bite of every single cookie, and then I was able to satiate myself enough that it only took me, I think, 4 times then to start to record and then to finally like make it all the way through. Thanks to Sugar Crumble.
Save the day.
Yeah. I didn't know they did like verbal messages. That's cool.
I'm pretty sure
she pay extra for that.
Girlfriend's she is very generous, but I'm pretty sure she's just she's fucking funny, man. She's just funny.
Knowing
I'll
you
give you
and the amazing,
if you send a personal message.
Yeah, like I'll slip you a 5-ski, but knowing you and your energetic and magnetic personality, your friends are also like you that go up to the security guard or the policeman and be like, "Can I have that lanyard?" Like, I'm sure your friends are also like, "Hey, can I pay a little extra for you to do a singing telegram?" Like.
Totally. I think it's our generation. Of women who are like, we've been through some shit. What can we like, what can you do for us, guys?
Yeah.
Exactly.
What can you do for us?
You need to know how the Gen X runs this place.
Yeah, it's very direct communication and at least my girlfriends are the most assertive. They're very assertive and like, they're like little badasses. I
Yeah.
mean, you two are part of this group, right?
Yeah.
Like assertive, smart.
But I'm a rule follower.
Have their
so
shit
like,
together.
I'm a rule follower.
Joy kind of keeps us on the tracks.
Yeah.
Everybody else is like,
I need a little more of that in my life because I'm the one that's like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. Like, I'm such a rule follower that I'm like.
I mean, I'm kind of a rule follower too, but I'll push. I'll push to see how I can get permission to get in, and
I need more of that.
Yeah, and I
like
will
I'm afraid of the
later.
no. I'm afraid of the rejection.
Oh yeah, I'm not afraid of the rejection at all. I'm like, challenge accepted. I'm in, especially if I'm desperate and don't want to use a porta potty that's full of feces. Like I'm like, I will go to very extreme lengths, or to like make somebody laugh. Like, I don't know. It's like we're getting older and like kind of like your dad.
Like my dad.
Yeah, it's like, okay, how many fucks do I actually want to give to this random stranger I'm never going to see again? And like, it's okay.
Yeah, there's a freedom to that.
And we're just we're just humaning out there, guys. We learned to suppress our feelings all through the 80s and 90s. And now we're in the like 2025 and we're like, okay, you know what? Like, I'm just going to human.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe? I don't know.
Can we all just freaking human?
Yeah. So that was my laugh cry. And that is an opportunity for us to pivot into our CBT, which is the biz's way of saying cognitive behavioral therapy. Dun, 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 dun. All right. You know, I think Rebecca really wants to kick us off. I just see her face. Yeah, you do. I see your face, and her face looked like, really?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Popcorn.
Yeah. I think so. We've talked about, CBT before, so I don't want to get into like all the history of it because that's boring.
Yeah,
and nobody's
not
here
boring.
for boring.
No.
If you want to read more about the history, Google it or get a
it.
book on CBT and you can learn all about it.
Or chat GPT, CBT, and they'll give you the cliff notes.
They'll give you the cliff notes, and they might even try to give you some therapy, but I don't recommend using ChatGPT for therapy.
No. Oh my gosh.
Get a real therapist, people. Stop using the AI. Yeah, so CBT is really about thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, right? And essentially, the way I visualize this in my mind, there's like a worksheet I used to use for people all the time, but it was like these eyes, and so they like are, you're always scanning your environment, taking it in. And so you're witnessing things in life. And as soon as you see something, a thought immediately comes in your head. Whether you recognize it or not, you have a thought because your brain is trying to identify what that is, right?
And we call those automatic thoughts.
Yes.
Because they just come. We're not consciously thinking. Our brain's just, like I say, brain's like a heartbeat. It's just beating. That's what it does.
Yeah. And those thoughts have feelings that can be associated with them. And they're different for everybody. So all three of us could see one thing and have a different feeling about it. So it's a very unique experience. And then those feelings, sometimes they're aligned with what you see and they're like reality based. And then other times we call them like distorted, meaning they are biased or they're inaccurate of what might be really going on. And you have these inaccurate or biased feelings because of your history, just what you've learned through life, how you've gone about life and what you have seen and your knowledge and how you were raised. Like all these things influence those feelings. Then after feelings, we have behaviors. And so the behavior is, I've had the thought, now I'm having the feeling about it, and now how am I going to react about it? Am I going to start crying? Am I going to run away? Am I going to punch this person out? Am I going to get really angry? Or, am I going to maybe think, what's the point of living, and become suicidal too? So it's just a range of emotions. And again, they're all very unique and individual based on our own personal experiences. But we have thoughts, feelings, and behaviors.
And I want to add to it. So we have, when I teach this, it's the thoughts, the feelings, and the behaviors. All three of them influence the other. That's in essentially I'm saying what Rebecca's saying, just like in a different lens, because we all learn differently. And so my behavior often reinforces the feeling, which then reinforces the thought. Then the thought then reinforces the feeling, then reinforces the thought. And we go in this, and then we can get stuck. And this is where we end up in therapy and in negative feedback loop. And so what happens is our feelings are stored emotions. A lot of them, when we look at like the big stuff, like a depression or something, like I'm not living in alignment with my life, or I'm sad, which means I'm having a hard time accepting something that, is a loss, or that something's different now, or anxiety. I realize I don't have control, so I'm desperately trying to get control, right? So we look at those sorts of stages or kind of big things. And then when we go into the emotions, those emotions then can, when Rebecca's talking about them being biased, like all feelings are meant to be felt. But what it does then is it makes it like this biases to our thought, where we then attach this experience that we've had, this familiarity, and we then say, this is true. I'm annoyed because you annoyed me. And that is true. And it's like, well, maybe you're just annoyed because you've been suppressing anger for a really long time. You're not really feeling that. So now you're in this kind of other type place, right? So I always teach in therapy, thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and body sensations. You change one, guess what? All of them change, because they all go together, which is so fun. So if you want to change one, the easiest to change, you're not going to change your feelings, right? Like I'm not going to change like, oh, I'm not going to be annoyed anymore. But maybe you put me in some protein powder with like a shaker and you shake me up and I turn into a really healthy protein drink because I just process what's going on, right? So we can start to kind of move those things through in healthy ways. We can choose new behaviors. That then changes the feeling. So we have the most control over behavior, 100% control over that. Our thoughts, we can do this, hopefully through a skilled therapist or through learning how to, like maybe CBT, or learning different ways to do that. And our feelings really are just like meant to be felt, right? But we can learn to start changing those things through the other things.
Well, building off what we talked about with the tracks, right? A few episodes ago, we talked about making new tracks, and this is such a great way to start doing that. So it's like, yes, we can say all day long, oh, just start making new tracks. Well, how you do that, this is such a great way to do that. And I fall back on a lot of the things we've said before, but they're so helpful and so applicable in almost every scenario, is that the emotions that last for 90 seconds rule, where that is something that if you're afraid of feeling a feeling, just like let it slide for 90 seconds and process it. And then also that your brain is lazy and it's going to go to the negative. And you both know that I'm doing the coaching program at work right now that you both have done to be a behavioral health coach, which is, there's a lot of overlap with obviously being a therapist, and being a therapist takes a lot more time. But what I really appreciate about that program is how just kind of concrete, cut and dry, focusing on solutions. And something that we were recently talking about this week, which I'm sure you are aware of, is when you ask someone, and maybe do this in your own life, listeners, of when you ask someone maybe about their goals, they're going to immediately go to the things that are negative. Well, I didn't do this week, or I didn't do that. Like our brains are lazy. They're going to go to like the path of least resistance, which is mostly the negative. So I've been trying to really focus on that, of like how I'm talking to myself. So everyone can kind of play that trick on themselves of like, your thoughts are probably going to the lack. And so to the point of this week where I was talking about my cry, where I'm like, everything was just going to this lack. It's harder. It's more work. It's more of like that stretching and exercising that muscle, which is what we're talking about here, is that's how you change the tracks. But it's hard and it's effort, because it's so easy to be falling back into that negative thinking, cognitive, where we have to be very vigilant with our thoughts. But that's harder. It's easier said than done.
I think too, Joy, when we look at this and we look at goals, we have to understand part of the cognitive distortions, which are limiting beliefs, is that our biased brain can only sort of think as big as what we've experienced.
Yeah.
Or we go so far out there that we are like, oh, I want to, win the lottery, or I want to have this and all my problems are going to go away. But then we're so far out there with goals that it's impossible because we don't have the steps.
Right.
So a helpful tip and trick to trick your brain to not be in constant fight with the thoughts, and I will reference my sweet late husband, was when I was writing and I was like, I want to be a writer. He was like, well, then you sit down and write and you're it. That's it. Then you're a writer. And I'm like, started cracking up and I'm like, I already write. He's like, yeah, you're already a writer. You just haven't published anything. He's like, I've written my whole life. I have like children's stories. I have trauma. I mean, I have all kinds of stuff. I've always, since I was little, I've been a writer. And he's like, yeah, that's how a writer is a writer. They just write. So you are a writer. You're just not a published writer. So when I look at last week's episode and I'm like, okay, I want to get back into laying the foundation. So when I'm ready to go back into like my career again, which is writing, public speaking, podcasting, and also working with individuals, how do I start to get back to that? And so it's like, okay, you publish something again, Chelsea. Like you do something that's familiar, and then your brain goes, I did this. I already know how to do this. And then you add something just a little bit bigger, right? So like I signed up for a class on self-publishing, like a book or something. Amazing. I can't remember. Yeah. So I'm signed up for this class. It's not until October, but it's like, okay, I know how to write. I know how to publish online. I know how to do that. Now I want to grow into this next thing. But I wouldn't have gone to that next thing most likely if I wouldn't have done these other things, right? So then the brain starts to accept that this is truth. Yeah. You actually are able to do these things because guess what? You did it. And when you make it a routine, it becomes part of who you are. So you want to be a writer, write 1 page a day. And guess what? You're on the track to be there, right? You want to change your limiting beliefs, then we just start to notice one of the thoughts that come up and we decide like, is this actually true? So like maybe we can do an example because both of yous, Joy and Rebecca, we're talking about limiting beliefs last week. So maybe that's where we can like, let's go into that part.
Well, I'd love to get your opinion on this because as you were talking, I'd love to hear your opinion as far as I'll speak for myself, want like instant gratification. So when you're feeling that way, like the obvious choice is like, I just don't want to feel this way. I want this like very concrete resolution, gift, prize, outcome so that I can just stop feeling this way. You know what I mean?
Can I do a little bit of therapy on you?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. So when you're feeling this way, what do you think that feeling actually needs? If you were like the perfect parent to yourself, the perfect mother, or the perfect friend, what does that feeling actually need? If you're fighting a feeling.
Ease is the first thing that comes to my mind. Just being like gentleness, ease, kindness, compassion.
Okay. And how do we get to ease?
Take a deep breath. I don't know. Let go.
Yeah, I mean, you have to just feel the feeling, right?
Yeah, you just have to feel the feeling. And it's like this criticism of like, you're not doing enough, you're not being enough, you're not da-da-da-da-da.
Okay, and then like that criticism comes from what?
I mean,
if I feel this feeling, I'm going to be criticized. Where does that come from?
Well, I mean, I constantly go to the like not enoughness is always like, and that I could go track that. I know exactly like where that comes from. But like in terms of that pattern and getting out of that pattern is to be like, oh, I want to make a new track. So I don't want to just be like, you're a piece of shit and you don't do anything and like nothing, whatever. Like the tape, the loop is to go to this place of like, okay, what's a small step that you could actually look for proof that you are doing things that can, like, to your point, Chelsea, you are taking a small step to turn the car in a different way. What's that great analogy where they're like, if you just change the plane's direction by like a degree, it ends up in like, you know,
yes,
whatever. So like it's a small degree of change that will make a huge different outcome. And that is what I constantly forget is that it just falling back into this hole.
So you were able to logically go, I have a feeling that I don't want to feel. What I want to feel is ease. And my behavior that is stuck is connected to other people's opinions of me.
Yeah.
And that hits the core wound of feeling worthless, which is like an old feeling that you talked about that you know from a little kid. Okay.
Yeah.
So then we pull it back to right now to this moment. And this is just like very simple because I want to teach you something you can do with yourself. Right. So then I would say, is it true that you're worthless?
Nah.
Yeah, of course not, right? Like, and if you said yes, I would say, is it 100% true? Like, is there any evidence to support that maybe you're not?
Yeah.
Okay, so we know that core wound, Joy's already explored enough that it's loose.
Yeah.
And she knows it's not true. And then we go back to the next thing. If I do this behavior or I change this thing, how much would it affect this other like perceived judgment?
Can you rephrase that? Like, what do you mean by if you change this one thing?
So if you did do this behavior that you're worried about doing, or that you branched out, you got more uncomfortable and you did this thing that you wanted to do. But
are you talking about like a goal related thing?
Yeah.
That I wanted to. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if we go back to this goal, right, and the negativity comes in and is like, you're not ready, you can't do this, blah, 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 blah. That's normally like, whose voice is that?
Right. That's like the old beliefs dragging you back down.
Yes.
Okay.
And then you go to that, and then we want to look and say, am I getting stuck because of other people's beliefs about me? Mm-hmm. Am I getting stuck because I feel like other people are limiting me? Am I getting stuck because it's just new? Like, we want to look at the stickiness.
Right.
Like, where is the stickiness?
Yeah.
Like, my stickiness with the work thing is I love work. I feel good at work. I feel competent at work. This is something that's very much part of who I am. And for me to go back in and not feel like I'm okay with my own grief and then not be good at what I do, that devastates me. So I'm starting with something safer.
You're starting with something
mm-hmm.
safer. You're starting with something small.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a really good way to think about it. The part that's like the stuckness, and then for the sake of time, I'm going to like fast forward a little bit, but like the stuckness, I think, is where, remember when a few weeks ago, I was like, I just get like irritable. You want to like jump out of your skin because you like, this sounds so silly, but I'm sure a lot of people can relate. Like, you just want someone to tell you what to do, to like get onto a path that's going to make you feel satisfied. And I think the struggle for me has been historically, I'd say really good for over the past 5 to 10 years, is I don't have a clear vision. Like, my visions are like, I don't know what's going to get me out of so, but it's funny because I'm like, well, maybe it's not an outside thing. It's an inside job. You know?
Yeah.
And
like, I want an outside thing to be like, this is the answer. So then you can feel good. So that's kind of the thing that I've been dealing with, is I'm like, well, maybe you really need to get the inside right before like any outside thing is going to make you feel better.
You know what's interesting? I think lots of people want to be told what to do, right? But then I think about it. Most people then, when they're told what to do, don't like it. So it's like, yeah, we all have this idea that we want to be told something, but honestly, we don't.
Right.
And because it's going to be like, okay, well, that doesn't work for me.
And a lot of what you've said, Chelsea, has made me think of like, oh, there's just a reminder of the journey, not the destination. That cliche thing is true, that we really have to focus, or at least I'll tell myself that, is like the daily little small steps of finding the joy, like the flowers, the going outside, like those, get outside of yourself. That's, I mean, I am a true testament of like how important it is to remind yourself of that. It's not just like a one and done. You have to tattoo it on your freaking face sometimes, of like, this is what the journey is all about. And that no outside thing is going to satisfy that inner turmoil. So much of this is, back to the CBT thing, like these are the tools that we ourselves are working on to get to that space.
And I would say, if we're looking at the feeling part, Joy, you want to feel ease. So what you're talking about is adding behaviors that bring you ease. Yep. Going and seeing the flowers, looking outside. So you can also do that. Like, people are like, oh, I want to be joyful. Well, then start finding more joy and all these little tiny things, because then what you're doing is you're leaning into what you want. You lean into what you want. The brain starts getting some flexibility. We start changing our perception. So again, you can run back to what's familiar. This connects to worthlessness. What's actually happening in this moment right now? I'm fighting a feeling. What do I want to feel? I want to feel ease. What are things that I can do that make me feel ease? How do I take this little teeny tiny step to at least go towards loosening the feeling? And then what's going to happen? It's going to change the thoughts. It's going to reinforce the behavior. And then we start to figure out, okay, I'm starting to get these answers for myself. And to Rebecca's point, I don't actually want to be told what to do. I actually want to be, what do we want? We want to be seen, heard, and validated in our process.
Yep.
And we all, want guidance.
Yeah.
And so that is where therapy is amazing, right? Where you can go in and your therapist isn't going to tell you what to do. Your therapist is going to teach you tools. Your therapist is going to help you process. You're going to get your ahas. And now we have this sort of the cognitive behavioral triangle. Joy can be like, I'm feeling this irritability, right? What do I want to feel? I want to feel ease. My behavior is stuck. I haven't been out of the house. I haven't been doing the things that I want to do. We know the behavior is now reinforcing it. I have the thoughts. I'm afraid or I'm worthless or whatever. Okay, that's an old thought. We're done with that. We don't need to keep going to that because that's like not even true. You've already done the work. Your words. I've already done the work. You can say that to your thought.
Yeah.
I've already done the work on this worthless piece. I don't need to keep revisiting this.
Yeah,
I'm good. Yeah. You're good.
Well, you know what's also interesting is as you were talking, I'm like, there's so much of this, and a lot of us want the sexy shortcut. I'm just making that up. It's not a real thing, but like whether that be a substance
shortcut.
This is a new biz term.
It's a new sexy shortcut.
Sexy shortcut.
We want the sexy shortcut, like. And for the extreme way of doing that would be using a substance to like get relief from that, right? Alcohol, drugs, whatever, shopping, addiction. Like we could go into a whole nother episode about that. Caffeine, candy, cigarettes.
Nicotine.
Candy cigarettes in the morning.
Cigarettes.
So like that is where I'm like, ooh, I'm not using substances, but I am using that like sexy shortcut mentality where I'm like, I don't want to do that. I just want this relief where I like want this beautiful gift of this solution handed to me where I can be like, oh, I finally figured it out.
Well, that's a distorted thought because nothing's going to get handed to you.
Yes. Right.
And
fucking distorted thoughts. I hate them.
There's
terrible.
And no self-esteem comes from the sexy shortcut. So that's where people go through the sexy shortcut and they're like, why am I still anxious? Why am I still afraid? Why do I still feel worthless? Why do I have I made the $1 million in my bank account. I have the house. I have the white picket. I have all these things because it was all given to me. And guess what? They're still blowing coke. They're still, self-medicating. They're still doing all of this because the self-esteem comes from the fact that you did it yourself. That's why in therapy, when people go like, thank you, and it's so sweet. And I'm always like, I am so grateful I got to be part of your journey and you did this. Like you did. And that's not like, it sounds cliche, but it's so true because we watch them work. We watch the thought come up. We watch them identify it. We watch them process it. We watch them feel it. We watch and we pick up on all of this progress. And sometimes it's the person who witnesses who says, do you see how you talked about this thing and you didn't completely unravel and go into that cognitive distortion? And the client goes, oh my gosh, no, I didn't see that, right? The witnessing is really, really, really validating because as kids, that's what we needed. We needed someone to witness and say, yeah, I see you. I hear you. I've got you. And guidance as opposed to sexy shortcuts.
I envision this, like those toy robots that like, walk across the room and then they like hit a wall and they're just like bouncing against a wall until you like, so I was like, oh, that's what I've been doing. I've just been like bouncing into a wall. And the reason I haven't recognized it to that level is because it's not on this like extreme wake up situation where you're like hit bottom and you're like, oh, I need to change. Like, I think there's some type of danger in, look, I mean, all of us are going to deal with a myriad of things on all the spectrum, but I feel like there's a danger of being like in the middle where it's not like this like aha moment where you're like, I just can't figure it out. And so that's been really helpful for me to kind of get my mind around it.
I don't think a lot of time there's an aha moment because you're really talking about getting out of a rut, which is changing behaviors or thoughts, feelings that don't work for you to make the new track. In order to get out of a rut and get into a new track, the effort is just doing. So just do. It doesn't have to be something huge and extravagant. It's just maybe when you're on the walk today with the dogs, you're like, wow, that flower is really beautiful and it grounds you and it's mindful and it gives you a little bit of joy and it starts to move you. It's like a seismograph. When there's no earthquakes, it's pretty well flat. And then when you start to do a little shifting and we get a little up and down, I think all of us are looking for the earthquake, like, oh, this is a 6.0 earthquake. We're looking for these huge leaps. That's not, you might get out of there for a second, but guess what? Those ruts are so strong, you'll go right back into it. You just have to keep doing little by little, and then you'll get out of it. But it's like being a baby again.
Yeah.
You've got to, do all the steps, crawl before you walk. I mean, I know some people are really genius and didn't crawl, but maybe that's a bad analogy.
I mean, I don't even think it's a bad analogy. I think it's a great analogy because it really speaks to when you're ready, you will go through the developmental stages that you need to go through. As a parent, I used to say, I was like in a mom's group, and that you get moms who are like comparing. And I used to just say, listen, everybody's kid eventually gets potty trained, okay? Eventually your kid's going to crawl. Eventually your kid's going to, you know why? Because unless there's some sort of physical or mental something going on, it all happens for all of us. All of us shit our pants, okay? All of us did. All of us had a parent who was like, I wish my kid wasn't still shitting their pants, okay? So when we talk about that, we have to lean into our process. What does my process look like? My process might be that I crawl for 2 years. That's okay. Somebody else's might be like, I got crawling, I'm already to walking, because they're already there, but they may have a hard time with something else. And so we always want to, not always, we want to be mindful to not compare ourselves to other people in a way that adds deficit or void. It's more helpful to say, oh, that person is there. That means I can get there too, because guess what? I'm a fucking human. And if I, want to be good at this sport, then I can dribble a basketball all day, every day for the rest of, eternity until I become as good as my capabilities, right? So we all have gifts. We all have areas that we're shorter or faster with, but we're all going to get to where we need to be if you keep showing up for the process. Nobody would have learned how to not shit their pants if they didn't keep learning how to shit in the toilet, right? Period.
Chelsea,
we put that on a bumper sticker.
I love this so much that you're just talking about a kid's, like, potty training is your own freaking process. Like, parents, relax. Like, you're making that about you because you don't want to change the diapers, right? But this is about them. This is about a kid.
Or you're looking at another and you're like, well, so-and-so's kid potty trained. Like,
right.
And I could go into the psychology about why you need to let kids' bodies be their own. Yeah. I mean, I could really go deep with like boundaries and sexual abuse and all different things of like really letting kids get that. But again, that self-esteem that the kid gets, if you're a parent, they go, Mom, I did it. I did it. No kid looks at their room that you cleaned and goes, well, Mom, you did it. No, they want to do it themselves. And that's how they get the self-esteem. And guess what? It's messy. It's vulnerable. It's hard. And we're all just humaning along, hoping we don't shit our pants.
Really hoping.
Sometimes there's accidents and it's okay.
Yeah, go to the Grateful Dead concert and go to a porta potty and you'll know exactly what kind of person is developmentally behind or on copious amounts of sacraments.
Oh my gosh. That.
And on that note, what are we talking about next week, guys?
So next week, we are going to talk about how this gets us back to the ends. This gets us back to the essence of who we are. And self-acceptance. I think you mentioned this when you were doing your laugh cry of like trying to just get back to the essence of who you are as you're moving through this and developing these new tracks and getting back into the workflow, taking these small steps. So let's talk about that next week.
I love that. I love that so much. And I do want to share with our Laugh Cry Club members and both of you. I was taking a beach walk and there was tracks on the beach because we have Jeeps, like the police or whatever. And I saw the tracks. I did not have my phone because I'm present when I walk. And I stood and I walked in the tracks and was like, the fuck if I'm not going to create a new track right now. And it was so symbolic and happy because first off, I kept thinking of both of you. And then I kept thinking like maybe my new track starts just by fucking up this track that I see. And it was, I loved it so, but what it did to my brain, it just felt really empowering. It's like I am on this walk. I'm on this journey. I'm in this grief. I'm going through this process. And to see that visual, it was like, it was symbolic. And then the behavior of me walking on the track, it really felt badass, you guys. I loved it.
Oh, that's amazing,
that's
Chelsea.
awesome.
I love that. What a great place to end. Well, listeners, we've done it again. You've spent another hour with us, hopefully obtaining some great gems for your own life. As always, you can follow us on social media at Laugh Cry Club. And email us, laughcryclub@gmail.com if you have any topics you would like to see us discuss. But you know what? We're just glad you're here. Thank you for spending the time with us. And we know you have a lot of podcasts to choose from. So it really makes us smile when we know that you spent time with us. You can rate and review us on any of the podcast apps you're listening on. We really appreciate that. It helps our podcast grow and get new club members. So until next time, we love you, we thank you, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.
See ya.
That's life, baby.